101.5 FM KDAWN.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Going bell to bell with the best in professional wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's get to all the exciting pro wrestling action and bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
And good morning, Las Vegas. What's going on? Oh, we are going to have a great time here. This is the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment, our top-rated live show here on KDAWN. And there's a reason why, because we're just that darn good. That's what we do. We're going to bring you to you just more and more pro wrestling excitement happening. We actually have a week without a pay-per-view. My God, it's stunning, I know. That changes next week, and the week after that. It never ends. But we are going to keep it coming to you, and we're happy to have you joining us here wherever you're listening to us, whether it's on KDAWN on 101.5 FM, the Odyssey app worldwide. If you haven't downloaded it, I've told you to. Why aren't you listening to me? Shame on you. Grow up. Just do it. It's a terrific app, and all sorts of great shows on there from our KDAWN family, like SportsX Radio, that you get to hear on this terrific station from 6 to 8 p.m. You get to listen to Ken Thompson and me trying to keep that show in order as well. So get that Odyssey app. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and I decided, what the heck? Let's pop it up on X too today. See how that goes. So very happy to have you along for the ride. And another guy I brought along for the ride today, who you have seen, well, you've heard him on SportsX Radio. And we are very excited, even though he is a Pittsburgh Penguins guy, we will forgive him for that. Jason Halperin is in the house. And Jason, it's funny, I didn't know that you were a pro wrestling guy, but when I found that out, I'm like, I got to get Jason in here because we have a lot of fun when we're on SportsX Radio. Jason comes up with the cutest little quips that just make me die laughing. You know, he's like that silent bomber that just sits there and all of a sudden, boom. And I'm very happy to have you joining us. So, Jason, welcome to the Mark Hoke Show for the first time. Very happy to have you with us.
Thanks, Mark. It is great to be here. Glad to finally be able to make it. It is that slow week, like you said, with no pay-per-view, so things have slowed down for me as well, so I guess it was just the timing of it.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you here, and of course, we're also going to be joined later on in the show by the president of wrestling. You know, I want to take him on for that. I want an election at Pro Wrestling Revolver at some point. I'm gonna go for it, I think. I want to get
get your name on the ballot.
Yeah, I want to get a nomination from the floor. I'm going to take him on. Phil Stamper is going to be joining us. Great guy, and if you haven't heard him on the show before, he is absolutely phenomenal. So we'll look forward to hearing from Phil Stamper as soon as he can get on. I know we're definitely going to have him for the second hour. He may join us a little sooner, but we will wait to hear from Phil Stamper. I want to remind you, if you are joining us wherever you are, hop in that chat box. We want to hear your comments, and we'll certainly answer your questions. We'd love to hear that. It's great to interact with our listeners, so thank you for joining us in there as well. All right. So, Jason, I thought we'd start with a little WWE stuff because they had some people showing up. A few new friends. Well, old friends that are new friends that are back and a new debut. So why don't we start with some peeps coming out and getting beat up as the new Wyatt 6. And if you didn't know, that 6 is spelled S-I-C-K and the number 6. And of course, in honor of the late Bray Wyatt, as the gang is, well, they're almost all here.
They are. Most, but not quite.
Not quite. We've got 5 of them. So Bo Dallas, of course, leading the way, portraying Uncle Howdy. And then we have other Firefly Funhouse characters in there. But it's Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, and Nikki Cross showed up, and they show up. They laid waste to the back. Anybody that was in Gorilla or hanging around the backstage area was, well, they were beaten and bloodied. That was not good. So, but of course the crowd's going crazy. Everybody is very excited about this, as we have at least 5 members. And of course, speculation about who the last member would be. Would expect it to be Alexa Bliss when she finally does get back. But of course, you never know. Could be somebody else. Some people are even saying, well, the 6th person is the spirit of Bray Wyatt. I don't know about that. But we do have a new group here, and I'm going to give it a shot. I'm happy. I think this is a terrific ode to Bray, and I hope everything works out. I really do. Here's the question, and I'll fire this at you, Jason. Are they going to get it right this time? Are they going to do the supernatural thing the right way? Or will this turn into a convoluted mess that we're going to regret putting on TV? That's what I'm worried about. Do you think that WWE is going to handle this the right way this time around?
I think they have a legitimate shot to handle it the right way. The fact that it's a whole new era, I think, with Triple H leading the way, I think that he knows what went wrong the last time, and they need to do a better job. And I really think they will do a better job on portraying it and getting that whole supernatural thing going. As far as Alexa Bliss coming back and joining them as the missing member, I also think that's going to happen at some point. The question is just going to be when.
Yeah. I would imagine it's got to be her, but like I said, you never know. Maybe she's going to try and fight off the supernatural yearnings of the spirit of Bray Wyatt, and try to stay on the side of brightness. You never know. I mean,
yeah.
The only thing that scares me is a lot of times when you get into all this supernatural stuff in pro wrestling, it seems like a lot of times they just kind of take it too far, and they lose the whole point of it. I mean, it's been done quite a bit. We know this, and for me personally, it goes all the way back to Kevin Sullivan. Back in the Florida days, where it was him and Woman and superstar Billy Graham and Mark Lewin and that little group where he scared the living bejesus out of everybody in the Florida Panhandle and up and down the state. And it was a pretty good gimmick, and Sir Oliver Humperdinck was in there too. But they kind of figured out where to let it go, And every time they've done something along the lines in WWE, it just seemed like it just ended up in a weird place that didn't make sense in the end. And, at some point when you tell this story, the story's got a beginning, and this is a good beginning, right? You've reassembled this group in the spirit of Bray. All right. So now they're going to go around, they're going to start beating people up that, who knows, but who knows where it's going to go? And, what's the objective, right? Is the objective of these guys to go out and just torture every WWE superstar that they feel like they needed to? Is it to go out and win championships? Is it just to kind of hang around and, hey, I'm just going to pop up everyone? What's going to be the point of the group? And then you got to get to, at some point, the end of the story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to last forever. Eventually this thing is going to, it'll wear out, and to honor Bray properly, you want to give it a proper ending. So I hope that, and I trust Triple H because I think he's done a pretty good job with the storytelling for the most part. I hope that when they do this, that there's a really good plan of where they want to take it and where it's going to end at some point. That's what concerns me the most, Jason.
Yeah, it's once again, it's like you said, it's been done for a while. Some have been done right, some have been done wrong. I'm just curious as to, like you were just saying, who are they going to go after to start? You have this faction back. Factions need to battle other factions. They need to come out. Are they going to go after another faction? Are they going to try to make a name, or is it, like you said, are they just going to just go around and wreak havoc in the back? I mean, the wreaking havoc thing has been done. And the last time it was done, it wasn't done real well. So if they're going to do the wreaking havoc, there's got to be a point to it. There's got to be a reason. Are these people that they're going after for a specific reason that had at some point or another wronged Bray Wyatt? Is that going to be a reason for it? Or is it just going to be, let's just keep interrupting shows left and right? Because that's not going to be good if that's what it is.
Okay, Retribution did that.
Yes, and it was not done well.
No.
And there was a good chance they could have done Retribution well, but they chose to go a really bad direction with it, and then thankfully they just finally just killed it off and got rid of it because that was done very poorly. Hopefully the Wyatt Six is not going to be like what Retribution was.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and keep an open mind to it. I hope everything works out. And it's an interesting group of people too. You kind of had a group of misfits there. And I'm curious to see what they'll do in the ring too. I think a lot of the people that are involved in this group very underrated as wrestlers. But then again, at the same time, most of these guys were generally mid-card wrestlers. Nikki won a championship, and obviously Eric Rowan, had some great moments. But Joe Gacy was down in NXT. Dexter Lumis was an NXT person. So this is, and Bo had his moments too, but, very underrated guy. I mean, to say the least. And I think he got a very raw deal in WWE. So this is going to be a fascinating dynamic just in the ring too, to see what they do. But, like I said, I think it's going to get handled well, but God, let's just hope there's not a giant Jack in the Box or anything like that.
Yeah, let's definitely hope that doesn't happen. I'd be curious to see if they go after any of the other members or former members or associates of Wyatt. You've got guys like Braun Strowman.
Mm-hmm.
You've got guys, I believe, Randy Orton at one point was associated with him. You could go after these guys, and you could have a real storyline like trying to bring them, quote unquote, over to the dark side. Not to borrow from Star Wars there, but kind of bring them over to that supernatural side. See if it's possible, or if not, it's at least the start of a storyline there. It gives them someone to go after right away, versus just the wreaking havoc.
Yeah, and it was interesting, to see Chad Gable get laid out, and CM Punk was laid out, and Trips. I mean, that was some interesting choices, but I think it was just a matter of these guys were in the way.
Yeah.
More than anything else. But of course, Drew McIntyre had fun with CM Punk getting laid out. That when he brought back his social media accounts, and one of the first things he put up was a picture of a bloodied CM Punk. So way to go, Drew.
Yeah, quit for a day,
He's back on it.
It was the quick quit. The whole quit with Drew McIntyre, I know we're shifting over pretty fast here. But the whole quit with Drew McIntyre, it would have sold a lot better if the story hadn't come out already about him signing a big contract with the WWE. Had it actually not been, publicized that he signed a contract, it would have been more believable that he truly did quit.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that everyone knew that he just signed a big contract, everyone knew he didn't quit, it didn't sell well. But you knew he was going to go after Punk. You knew it was going to happen in Chicago after what happened in his home country.
And I'm sure he was slightly annoyed. So, I'll tell you what, let me take a break because I think we're probably going to end up getting into a pretty interesting topic around the bloodline. So let's take a step back. We're going to break here, and when we come back, has the most dangerous Samoan of them all showed up? I wonder if he has, as a debut happened on that same episode of SmackDown on Friday night. Everybody better hold on to their hats, because, kids, Jacob Fatu is in town in WWE, and it may never be the same. Stick around, everybody. We've got a whole lot more on the Mark Hoke Show. Jason Halperin sitting in with me today, and, of course, we've also got Phil Stamper coming up. We'll be right back.
1015 FM KDAWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show.
The Mark Hoke Show.
Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
All right, everybody, let's get back to it. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. Thanks for taking the time out on your Sunday morning to tune in wherever you are. We certainly do appreciate it. I got Jason facing the right way now. That's good.
Yeah, I just had to fix the camera there.
Yeah, well, and I had to fix you, but that's okay. It's first time. First time we had Jason in doing this. Every time. I'm actually there's another show that has some different cameras in here too, but a lot of our other shows for some reason don't want to live stream. I don't know why. Maybe it's because, I'm just a handsome devil.
Couldn't understand why not, but I know typically on the sports shows we're not live streaming, so had to get the camera fixed. A little technical difficulty there, but it's all taken care of now.
Yeah, well, spinning a chair. Yeah, it's all good.
I actually just moved the camera is what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to move my chair. It was easier just to move the camera.
Fair enough. Well, we are, of course, on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 1015 FM, the talk of Las Vegas, the Odyssey app, and streaming out there all over the place, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Thank you for being with us today. We do appreciate it. And by the way, I want to remind everybody before we start talking about the Wolf invading WWE, Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas has their 15th anniversary show tonight down at the Silverton. And that is going to be an awesome time tonight. Mecca Championship, Chris Bay is going to be taking on Kenny King. Kenny, at the Hall of Fame induction last night, by the way, tried to pull a retirement fake. Can you believe that? Didn't work.
I guess it's the new thing. I guess it's becoming the new thing again is to try to do that. I mean, we've seen it on others, so why not try it somewhere else?
Yeah, it didn't work. But Chris Bay did his induction speech, and then he challenges Chris Bay for his Mecca Championship. Hammerstone, unfortunately, was supposed to wrestle that, but he had to pull out. So Kenny King is going to be taking on Chris Bay tonight. A lot of other terrific matches down there, and congratulations to Joe DeFalco for 15 big years here in Las Vegas. Would highly recommend you go down. Should be a lot of fun. Shogun taking on Danny Limelight for the FSW Heavyweight Championship. That should be quality entertainment. And if you haven't seen Shogun and Danny Limelight, of course, Danny's all over the place and acting and everything else. Should be a great show. So get on down there. Awesome time. So, Future Stars of Wrestling, FSWVegas.com. All right. Jacob Fatu is now in the Bloodline. So now we've got Haku's kids. We got Solo Sikoa and a guy who, I'll tell you what, Jacob Fatu, of course, was in MLW for a very long time. I've seen Jacob live. I actually got to watch him wrestle, whichever name you want to give Mr. Cross in the first, Killer Cross, Carrion Cross. And Jacob is unbelievable. This guy can do almost anything he wants in a wrestling ring. And now that he has come in and laid waste to everybody, this Bloodline 2.0 becomes one of the most dangerous young factions. Man, I'll tell you what. I mean, you got the Guerrillas of Destiny and Solo, who actually came out of Future Stars of Wrestling, by the way, and now Jacob. What a group this is. And, of course, Paul Heyman is doing a terrific job trying to figure out a way to get the hell out of there. I mean, this is something else. And I am very curious to see the future for this group of guys. Obviously, I think we're headed for a big showdown with Roman and the Usos and whoever else they bring in. But your thoughts, Jason, on Jacob Fatu now being a part of this group as opposed to being a part of Roman Reigns' side of things?
I think it's a great move. I think what they're doing, I like the fact they're going younger, bringing in these guys that are a little more aggressive, or at least they're having them be more aggressive. They're showing that now this faction is not going to sit back. We're not going to be under the rule, quote unquote, the rule of the tribal chief, where they're going to sit back and just do his bidding. They're going to go out there and they're wreaking havoc. And I think that's really what the Bloodline needs to do, is to instill fear in everybody. And it couldn't be being done better with the guys they have. Jacob Fatu is just another one. Yeah, you've said it. He's done it all, and he can do it all in the ring. And he's going to be the one that's going to probably be the most formidable out of all of them.
Yeah, and, it's interesting, too, because, Solo was someone that I was really excited to get in there, because I felt like this is a guy that is a future world champion. And now you throw in Jacob, too. I mean, these two guys could be fighting down the road for years and years in WWE, back and forth. I mean, this is guys that could team together and then split up and fight and split up and fight. Just two incredibly talented guys. This is going to be interesting. But there is one other factor. We talked about the Usos. We talked about Roman Reigns. We were discussing this before the show, and we talked about these four guys in the Bloodline. But there's a puppet master out there. There's another guy who's hanging out in Hollywood that the name didn't come up. And that's our buddy Dwayne. Good old Dwayne.
Yeah.
What's Dwayne going to do with all this? Because I'm hoping that he's the one. Because this is you talk about who the fourth man is, and my booking mind is going to, okay, Dwayne might go with the other three guys, but he's going to turn on Roman, and it's going to turn. He's the one that's behind these four guys. Kind of just my little nasty, cruel, family-crushing mind going at it there, because Roman lost and speared him at WrestleMania and all that. So,
well, I think they've set it up. They've really set it up well for that, because of the whole "I didn't lose to, you didn't beat me" with the whole talk back with Cody Rhodes, where Dwayne's sitting there going, "You didn't beat me, I didn't lose," and then you had the way the whole Bloodline just kind of changed, with Solo saying, we don't take to losing, and there went the other Usos. So now you definitely have that split. I think Dwayne really is the one that's probably pulling the strings right now. He probably is thinking he is the true head of the table right now, and it sets it up where you have that split. It allows Roman to come back as a baby. You definitely now have a true set of heels in the Bloodline. No one's going to be cheering for them, especially when Roman comes back. It allows the Usos to come back, and you have a definite hit against each other. You can bring Dwayne back initially to be with Roman, but like you just said, splitting him off and having him on the other side makes it even better.
So that begs this question, because what everyone is saying is that the main event of next year's WrestleMania is Cody against The Rock. But should next year's WrestleMania, at least for one of the days, be Rock and Roman? Because if you're setting up this massive Bloodline versus Bloodline feud, wouldn't the ultimate result of that be this huge Roman versus The Rock showdown? And doesn't that, to a point, leave Cody out of the mix? That's something you've really got to think about, don't you, when you're setting up next year's WrestleMania?
I don't know if it leaves them out of the mix, because I don't think you really need to have Roman and The Rock, either of them, fighting for the championship at that point. I think it's really past them. I think the story of the Bloodline, it brings a conclusion to the Bloodline as we've seen it, by having Roman and The Rock go after each other. There doesn't have to be a championship involved. They've got to have some of these younger guys start stepping up. At some point, it becomes a little old. You could really see Cody fighting with Orton is a good possibility for WrestleMania next year.
Go.
It's really a good possibility there, because Orton's getting long in the tooth. Give him another shot to get in there. You just finished up with AJ Styles. Let's get a couple of these other older guys, give them their shot with Cody, give them that great moment with them on the grandest stage. And I think that's something that you can have and still not take away from the whole thing with Roman and The Rock.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Of course, when Orton saved Cody the other night, Orton was looking very lustfully at that WWE World Championship.
Of
and
course.
Yeah, you may be onto something there, because I think everybody's you're hinting at that match at some point, which would be a great full circle match for the two of them. But I hadn't considered that at WrestleMania as a main event, but I don't think anybody would be complaining too much if you had that and a Rock Roman kind of co-main event on night 2. I think people would be doing that. And I think Las Vegas would get a kick out of that one.
Absolutely. Another one I was actually thinking, you could also look at a CM Punk, but I think at WrestleMania next year, you're going to see that's going to be the culmination. Finally, they're going to end the story between McIntyre and Punk at WrestleMania. I think that's where that one happens. You're going to see it a couple times throughout this year. SummerSlam is probably going to be the first one where you're going to have Punk and McIntyre going after each other. But there is a possibility of Punk being involved with Cody as well. But I don't see it just yet. I see this McIntyre-Punk thing being able to last to next WrestleMania.
Yeah, that is a distinct possibility. Yeah, and we had talked about this on the show last week, that there are so many different possibilities for the World Heavyweight Championship. So many top guys now, as opposed to where it was, say, 3 years ago. This is actually the 175th edition of my show, and I remember the state of WWE when I first started doing this show on KDAWN, and just how bad it was, and how it was Brock and Roman, and anybody else out there was just a second tier, who cares? And now there are so many people out there that you could consider holding a world championship and being in the main event. It's phenomenal. And not to steal a phrase there, but this is exciting right now. And we haven't even talked about Seth Rollins coming back yet, and he's going to be in the main event at Money in the Bank, which I think is very intriguing, that all of a sudden now he's inserted into this whole dynamic with the World Heavyweight Championship. With Gunther waiting in the wings. This is fun, Jason. It's fun.
It's you've got great stars on both sides of the shows, with SmackDown and with Raw. You have legitimate contenders, legitimate champions. It's like you said, not like where it was 3-4 years ago. They've done a great job of just bringing these guys up, really developing their characters, and giving you something to watch for.
Yeah, the creative in WWE has changed so much now that Triple H has been in charge, and it's and I was thinking about this the other day too, just how much better this has been for everybody, and how much more well-rounded it has been for all the performers. I mean, they have to feel like they've got a legitimate chance, if they do a great job, to work their way up through, as opposed to feeling like, there was a ceiling there. And if you weren't one of Vince's favorites, I'll be wrestling for the Intercontinental title and be maybe a 3-time Intercontinental champion, or, a U.S. champ, and get a couple tag team title reigns and just sit back and watch the show. Otherwise, it is a very different WWE than it was just, 12, 16 months ago-ish.
Absolutely. I mean, look at it. They really want to promote the next generation of stars. You can see it already happening. Triple H is look at the guys, and look at not just the guys, look at the women, all the people that have come off of NXT that are now on the main card, and they're succeeding. They're not quite at that number one tier yet, but they're really pushing them to showcase them and push them up into that next tier.
Yeah, and the continuity between the main rosters and NXT has changed a lot too, because Vince was just taking the people coming up from NXT and I don't like the character. I'm just going to change it and make him, Steve Smith is now Wonky McWonkson, and you just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We fell in love with this guy down here, and you've just totally blown him up. And they have to become a totally and that would have to be really hard too, because part of being down there in developmental, you're developing yourself, you're developing a character, and say, hey, we're going to give you the call. You did a great job down there. Come on up, and guess what? All that work you did down there, we're thrown in the garbage can. I mean, that had to be so difficult for all of those men and women that went through all that, and now they don't have to do it. Because you got two guys on the same page, as opposed to, everybody else is on one page, but the boss was on the other. So it's pretty exciting stuff, to say the least. And, a couple of those guys from NXT are going to be wrestling at Money in the Bank for that case. And we had some qualifiers where we come back. We're going to talk a little bit about 3 of those people that made it into that Money in the Bank. Who should be the Money in the Bank case winner? At least so far.
Those are tough ones.
I don't think it's any of them. I had my idea last week, but we'll talk about those guys. And a little bit about Shane McMahon.
Back on the radar.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding? We'll be right back.
101.5 FM KDAWN.
You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show.
The Mark Hoke Show.
Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
And let's get back to it. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment here on The Mark Hoke Show, live on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas. Also streaming on the Odyssey app and live streaming so you can see our beautiful faces. Jason Halperin sitting in with me. Phil Stamper coming up in a little bit. The president of wrestling. Very excited to have Phil. Of course, also does a ton of work with Pro Wrestling Revolver, but he's going to be on the shelf for a while. Getting that knee squared up that he messed up, like goofball. So, looking forward to having Phil on in a little bit, as soon as he's ready to roll. So, get ready for, as we affectionately call him here, El Presidente.
Presidente.
Yes, should be a lot of fun. So, by the way, in the chat box, now we had a couple of comments, so let me make sure I hit those. I know one's going to be part of a topic we're going to hit later, but Gary Johnson, the Ripple Man, says, for motivational therapy, critical thinking, fun, and laughs, listen to the Mark Hoke Show on radio every Sunday morning. It's real, it's wrestling, it's real wrestling. Thank you, amen. That's kind of like the Jim Ross Skittles promotion there. So thank you, Gary. Jesse Hyde talking about Forbidden Door 2024. So I'm going to save that comment. So, Jesse, I saw it, but we'll come back to that. I promise. We will be talking about Forbidden Door because that's the big pay-per-view coming up next week. So that should be a lot of fun. But we will be talking about AEW and that little, I don't know. That's not really a little ratings hiccup. That's more like a big burp.
Oops.
I think Kendrick got him, but we'll get into it when we get into the second hour here. But we have a few qualifiers for Money in the Bank so far, Jason. And Carmelo Hayes, Melo Don't Miss, is in. And these were some upsets. I was quite pleased to see it. Carmelo's in there. Andrade, our new WWE Speed Champ, is in there. And we've also got Jey Uso, who a lot of people are talking about as the favorite to win this thing at this point. So we have 3 on the men's side. We've got 2 on the ladies' side. Io Sky and Chelsea Green is going to be in the women's Money in the Bank match. So kind of hard to predict, with only part of the field in there. But that's for the men's. That's not a bad threesome in there for a ladder match, to say the least. Do you see a winner coming out of those 3 is the question.
Not sure yet. If you do have a winner coming out, if I've got to pick one out of that group right there, I'm probably taking Carmelo Hayes.
Wow. Really?
I'm probably going there. There's a reason that they took him number 1 in the draft. Really going to see a push with him, I'm sure. I still think guys that are coming in, I think that Andrade is going to get too mixed up with Santo Escobar. I see him coming in next week, so I think there's a little more going on there. It's going to sidetrack him. I just don't know if they're gonna really push Jey Uso in that direction, or they're just gonna wait and kind of let him go back with, like I said before, as we were talking about with the whole Bloodline thing, and kind of push that aspect. I think Hayes to me would be the favorite right now out of that trio that's in there.
Wow, that is an interesting call. I'll have to check the betting odds on that. If you go to betonline.ag, and by the way, if you use the code that we have on our website, you can get a matching bonus up to $500. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, that's an interesting call. I know a lot of people are saying Jay's going to win. I still think Drew McIntyre would be the coolest win for Money in the Bank to have. You're laughing because you know it would be great.
But how's he going to get in there? He's not even in a qualifying match, is he?
I
mean, they're just putting Finn Balor back in a second chance one. I think that should Finn Balor qualify, I think that's the direction it ends up going, that he ends up winning, and then you have him turning on Judgment Day. And I think that's the breakup on Judgment Day, but Finn's actually got to get in first.
Right. My thought on Drew somehow getting the Money in the Bank briefcase would be that if Punk would win the title. Just imagine if Punk won the title and Drew is just torturing him for 4 or 5 months. Could you imagine that?
That would be great.
It would be amazing. That would be great. That'd be incredible.
But don't just think about that, though. He could also torture El Campeón.
He could.
He's at that point able to torture either one of them.
Oh, he could torture anybody.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic. I mean, Drew McIntyre is just absolutely on fire right now. I would very much enjoy Drew McIntyre with that case.
They need to bring back, if they really want to complete the Drew McIntyre character, you got to go back to the Scottish Psychopath. You got to get the long leather coat. You need to bring it back to where he was when he was truly, truly awesome. Let's go back to there.
All right. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be great with it. That would be fantastic. And then give him the briefcase on top of it. That's icing on the cake at that point.
That would be something. It's funny, this whole thing with Punk and McIntyre. I threw up a segment where we talked about it last week with NJ Holiday and Matt Black from WrestleZone, but I did cut down a tiny little portion where I asked the guys, who's the heel? And when I asked the question, one of them said CM Punk and one of them said Drew McIntyre at the same time. It was hilarious. But, these guys have done such a great job. But of course we're still waiting for CM Punk to get cleared. So, if Phil can keep his body intact, that's a big question. We'll see. He's weak, right? He's weak.
That's Father Time, man. Father Time is still undefeated. Let's never forget that. That's the true champion. Father Time is never losing.
No, he's not. And of course, now the other thing we teased a little bit, and we want to talk about this rumor of Shane McMahon. And, of course, Shane supposedly, and this was a conversation JR had with Conrad Thompson on JR's show, that apparently Shane McMahon was having a conversation with AEW about possibly working with them. Everyone's denying this. Tony Khan is saying, I've never met the guy. I've never talked to him. I've got no idea what you're talking about. That's ridiculous. Is it that ridiculous? I'll be honest with you. I think it is ridiculous. But this is the world of professional wrestling. Jason, is AEW a potential home for a McMahon?
I don't see why it couldn't be. I mean, you have both sides. Everyone is adamantly denying it, which really makes you believe that that's just misdirection, that they probably have been talking, and they're just kind of upset that it got leaked out, that it slipped out by somewhere. I don't think it's that ridiculous. the McMahons are at this point, they are the first family of wrestling. As we were talking before the show, Shane kind of got a raw deal, kind of wanted to get away from Pops there and everything going on in the WWE. I think it's a good opportunity. If it is true, let him come back. It could definitely help AEW. I mean, as you said, the slight hiccup, I guess, as we called it, on Wednesday.
It's a belch.
Inserting him into there could definitely help those ratings.
Oh my God, could you imagine? And by the way, I just see I think I can bring him on here a couple minutes early, just for fun, if he's ready to go. Phil Stamper is here, and since he showed up, I don't want to leave him sitting there for 10 minutes being bored. So let's get Phil Stamper in here on that discussion real fast. I was going to ask him anyway. Let's do it now. Phil, what'd you think of that whole thing with Shane McMahon to AEW? Oh, and unfortunately, Phil, I can't hear you. So,
but how about this?
There we go. That works.
I click off my mute button, and maybe that'll work.
That's a winner. Real quick.
What was that?
Yeah, go ahead. Just real quick.
So, at first when it came out, it was like, is this a leak? Is this just conjecture? Because things like this have been talked about before. When it looked like Triple H was going to be ousted from the WWE 2 years ago, he was talked about coming, and there were graphics of like, oh, look who's all elite. So who knows? I'm curious to see if it does go forward. I mean, Shane McMahon has done a lot to stand up his own on his own. I mean, he owns like one of the largest, or is a partner in one of the largest internet companies, I think, in China that also does entertainment stuff. So, he has branched himself out. So seeing that, yeah, like you said, I love wrestling and I don't want my name to be associated with my family name and some of the negativity that's gone there. Hey, I've tried to warn people of things that were happening and it wasn't listened to. So why don't I go somewhere else and enjoy my time in wrestling? And it might help bring up a bounce in the AEW ratings at the same time.
It would be interesting. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. Like I said, I just can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could happen. We've seen wilder things happen in this industry, but oh my God, a McMahon and AEW. No, my mind just can't wrap my head around it. It would be pretty hilarious, though. Could you imagine Thanksgiving dinner? It'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. I'd like to sneak a bug in there, that's for sure. So, anyway, hey, we are wrapping up our first hour, and the president of wrestling is with us now. So I've got Jason and Phil coming back for hour number 2. I am thrilled about that. So, guys, we've got a whole lot more to come. We're going to talk about what the heck happened on Wednesday night to AEW, Forbidden Door, and a whole lot more with Phil Stamper and Jason Halperin here on the Mark Hoke Show. So stick around. It's going to be a great second hour here on KDAWN. We're happy to have you with us. We'll be right back after the hour break. So stay around, everybody. The best in pro wrestling.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.